Okay, how's that? Yeah, no, as my mic was turned off. Is that? Are we good? Chuck, somebody, Tim, Chuck, sound check, sound check. All right, good deal. Yeah, for some reason, I think I cleared out my. I don't know what I did. I cleared out cache on Firefox. I don't know why that would affect Twitch, but who's to say? All right, good to go. We are here for Asking Me Anything. It is. Why are you sending me that picture, Chuck? Chuck sent me a picture of myself. I'm not certain why. Let's reboot that. Get all of this mess rolling. I don't even know what the hell that is. We need to close that. All right. Okay. All right. So we are live. All right. Well, let's wait. Give a few minutes for people to wander in. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm sure I've done something horribly wrong. Chuck's been running these from his end recently, but couldn't make it today, so he's actually working on some video stuff for us. So there you go. Well, we're gonna sit back. Oh, this is interesting. It is Tuesday at 4, right? We'll just put the boots up and see what happens. How's it going, Commander Pete? We had a few technical difficulties. I wasn't really certain that we were online. I dropped you a mail, by the way. Oh, we're supposed to be doing something tomorrow, aren't we? At noon? Is that the Zoom meeting? I think. Yeah, I'll have to make sure all of that. Yeah, good deal. How's it going, Willie? Yeah, the books, Gaxmore should ship tomorrow, which means we won't get it till Friday or Monday or something like that. Crap, I'm supposed to do an update for Gaxmore. Lots of stuff. Alright. Before I start yawning again. To lock addresses. Oh, have we not done that? I thought we did that when we charged. Oh, that's right. We lock addresses just before we ship. That's okay. Yeah, we've got, we'll have the last two items should be ready. One will be ready by tomorrow. The next will be ready by Friday, probably. Commander Pete, it's very different than the normal Troll Lord fare. Weapons of Gaxmore is written by Christopher Clark and Turbo, and it's just kind of they developed off the wall, strange weapons that would go with kind of a high fantasy setting. I'm not certain they fit Gaxmore. I'm not 100% certain. It depends on how you play it, I suppose. But they're pretty cool. Pretty interesting. The names are unique, if nothing else. So, Christopher Clark, of course, worked with Gary Gygax for years and years at Hecaforge. And they did... I can't remember what his line of... Critter Commandos was another game, another company. I can't remember what his line of books were. And, of course, he did Legendary Adventures with Gary Gygax. And when we signed Gary on board, and we kind of took over Gary's side of things so that Chris could pursue his own own game development. Was that you, Clever? Very cool. Yes, thank you for that. That is a breath of air from an age long gone. A thank you note. It's kind of a. It came at an interesting time because I was going through up at my parents' farm, and I had this huge, absolutely monstrous black trunk filled with all kinds of stuff from my childhood, going all the way back to the 70s. And when I got into it, there was a mountain of letters in there. Just a huge, and those were letters that were written to me from return letters that I had written to people. And of course, that's kind of passed to the wayside now as we email and direct message and all of that other stuff. So the thank you card you sent was really cool. I mean, that was really cool. You just don't see that much anymore. It's all gone so digital, which I suppose is the way of things. How's it going, Lord Dalius? I don't think we're going to ungo digital anytime in the near future. If Tim Burns would have his way, we would go even more digital than we are now. So, how's it going, Ghidorah? Good stuff in good times. The world will always keep spinning, and it will always keep changing. Thanks for the subscription, Ghidorah. Very much appreciated. All digital, all the time. Yeah, exactly. I'm not quite there yet. I was actually, when I was rummaging around in that trunk, I found an old paperback edition of The Hobbit with the original Tolkien cover on it, probably from 69 or 71 or something like that. And I started reading it in the midst of my Spartan book. So I'm almost, let's see, Bilbo has just picked up the Arkenstone. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Bilbo has picked up the Arkenstone, so I'm at the very tail end of it. And it's kind of fired me up to go in it, to dive right into The Lord of the Rings. I absolutely love those books. I haven't read them in years and years. So I might put my Spartan history aside for a little while and indulge in Middle-earth. Yes, the names are interesting. We'll leave it at that. And that of course, Peter Bradley knocked the art out of the park. The art looks fantastic, but the names are very Chris Clark. Chris Clark has a very fun way of gaming. He games really fun. I've played with him before. He just has a lot of fun at the table, and that carries over into all of the writing that he does. So if you ever get a chance, in fact, he co-wrote Starship Warden with James Ward. Oh, I gotta respond to that. He co-wrote that with James Ward, and you'll see a lot of his writing is just fun. He's just a good writer, and it's just fun. My first copy of The Hobbit was the Penguin edition with the Tolkien's pencil drawing of Smaug over Dale on the cover. Yeah, that's a cool edition. Mine is just the old, what is it, Bantam probably? I think they came out in a set of 4. Way back when, and it had been stuck in this trunk, God knows why or for how long. Just kind of jammed up in the corner, all battered up, and I was up there mucking around in it, and I just sat down and started reading it, and I had forgotten how good it is. And I will say this: it's also nice to read just a paperback book that's nice and light and doesn't have 12 pounds of book around it. Vapog is one of the possible combination weapons designed by the brothers Lugax and Urgax. Yeah, exactly. He did not cast far from the pond. Without a doubt. How's it going, Bifford? So I may actually dive into the Lord of the Rings. We'll see. I actually went back and I watched bits and pieces. So when I got to the dragon scene, I wanted to... Oh, man, I can't stop yawning. I wanted to look at the two movies, the cartoon that came out in God knows when, and the movie that came out a couple of years ago, and I compared the dragon scenes. And the dragon looks all cool in the movies, in the new ones, but the movies just are not very good. They took what's really a cool, simple story, and I guess it's Peter Jackson, is that who did that? And just sent it over the top. I mean, just way over the top. I don't want to spoil anybody's, and Bifford loves all of them. That's good. I don't want to spoil anybody's, enjoyment of the movies. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. But when you read The Hobbit, it's a really kind of a down-to-earth experience. but The Hobbit, the three movies, kind of went up. They ratcheted it up a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of how I am, Commander Pete. I really enjoyed the three movies, and The Hobbit. It went too far for me. Books greater than the movies. Yeah, the books definitely. I mean, I will say this about as a fantasy movie, The Hobbit is really cool. Yeah, it's just cool. It's just a good, fun fantasy movie now, and it's so separated from the book itself that you can actually kind of judge them differently, which is fine. It's sort of like when I look at Blade Runner. If you look at Blade Runner, the movie, and then Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, they're really two different. They're so different. That you can kind of judge them both on, just different merits. Lord of the Rings movies, however, are interesting because they follow the books pretty good. I mean, Todd's a huge Lord of the Rings fanatic, and he had a few more issues with the movies than I did. But I only really remember one issue that I had, and that was when Arwen and Aragorn, or when Arwen doubts her love for Aragorn, to make the tension in the movie or whatever. That really kind of broke that part of the story of, there's three great loves between men and elves, and Aragorn and Arwen are one of them. Okay, what are the others? The others, Baron and Luthien, of course, and then there's the other one that results, I think, in Elrond. I think Elrond's parents were the third. But so there's these three great unions, and there was no doubt, and it's pure love and all these things. And I thought the movie, when they injected that doubt into Arwen, it kind of derailed the epicness of that moment. I've been watching a lot of stuff lately, TV wise, movie wise, and you can see where filmmakers inject crap that really I don't think the audience necessarily needs, but they're doing it to heighten tension or whatever they feel like whatever they learned in film school. I think they'd probably be better off, digging in and following their instincts. I think a lot of artists do better when they follow their instincts. I did go and see all of the Hobbit films back to back in the cinema when the last one came out. That was one hell of a long. That is a long evening. I'd never watched any of them back to back. I did watch the extended versions of the three, but not back to back. That would be 12 hours of sitting there. I don't think I could do that. At any rate, we are here for Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions about Troll Lord games or movies or TV shows or RPGs or Kickstarters or anything else, throw them up in the feed and we'll dive into them. Very nice. But just throw up any questions about anything you have, and we'll roll it out and digest it all. How's it going, Mr. Obadiah? I'm a bit weary today, and I don't know why. I've had an extraordinarily too productive day, so that usually keeps me jazzed up. But there you go. NPC book is coming along pretty well. We've got another small snag, so I shifted Davis's focus so that he can wrap up bits and pieces of this thing, so that we can close the book on certain sections and he can get focused. Up first with the caravans, we're trying to do one a day, get these done. He's got notes all over the place, things that he want to do, and he's writing some of it fresh. So we're trying to get all of those done. I think he sent the 6th one over today, 6 out of 12. So we're going to get that wrapped up I'm hoping in the next week. Caravans is done, and then we're going to go on to villains and get these things wrapped up. And while we're doing that, he and I are kind of piecing together. There was a little bit of miscommunication between myself and him about what we're doing. So we've kind of worked that out, and now we've got to work that out through the files and get that kind of back on. And in the meantime, I didn't want to lose any ground. We've already lost enough on the NPC Almanac due to whatever, it's blah, blah, blah. But I didn't want to lose any more, so I had him shift focus and just hammer out, and he's hammering on these caravans while he and I fix that. And like I said, villains. And I think there's something else we got to wrap up, a stretch reward or something, I'm not sure. But that might actually involve other writers other than Davis. And as for the CKG, tomorrow is my CKG day. I'm going to work I've got to finish the Dream Runes. I'm going to do that, and I'm for the Adventure Spellbook. But the CKG, I'm going to go through all of Mac's notes. They're pretty light. I mean, it's just a little bit editorial here and mostly corrections and whatnot. So I'm going to go through those and get back on track and feeding that in over to DM. And once DM has it, he'll be able to give me an idea of when he can get it back. But I'm hoping by early next year we are putting that up on BackerKit, locking that down, and calling that a day. And that would be the best thing. We're down to like 3 copies of it, and I cannot be out of that book. Not on the topic of CNC, but I tried a new RPG last weekend, Tales from the Loop, an 80s set game in the flavor of Stranger Things and the Goonies. So many laughs. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's all of that stuff's Mac Golden, who co-created the Siege Engine. Absolutely loves 80s nostalgia stuff. I'll throw that to him and see what he thinks. I kind of wax and wane on the 80s. Sometimes I get real nostalgic, and sometimes I don't. I'm not sure what kind of drives me one way or the other. The 80s were an interesting time, and it's funny that those of us that are my age, those of you guys that are my age, we never really realized that we were kind of living in the millennials kind of get it, but that final age of toys and skateboards and interactions, with your friends down by the whatever. It's very interesting. And my daughter looks back on the 80s and 90s with such she wants to have lived in those times. It's kind of interesting. VTT and mapping programs are always on my mind. I understand TLG is partnering with some of this stuff. What can you tell us about how that is progressing? So right now there's 2. We're deep in with Fantasy Grounds, of course, and have been for a while, and we are in the process of overhauling the rule set there on Fantasy Grounds. That's the first thing that we're doing. Not the first, but that's the thing that we're doing over there, and we're trying to get all of our stuff updated, covers and whatnot, and get the storefront over there kind of streamlined, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's out of date and that just needs cleaned and fixed so that it's more usable with the more modern versions of Fantasy Grounds. Now that's not to address the Unity that's coming down the pipe. We'll deal with that once that comes out. And then there's Shard that we've just partnered up with, and Shard has, I think we put the 5th edition version of A0 Rising Night. I can't ever remember what the title of that book is. Up there for free download, and they too we'll start expanding into that. I believe in January there's a big Kickstarter going to be announced. Hal over there's a great guy, and they're going to announce Kickstarter, and TLG's kind of bound up in that. So we're really looking up in the next 3 months to have increased our presence on the VTT and solidified what we have, and then kind of set us on a road of expansion that should be fairly aggressive next year. Chuck and Tim have been working on that pretty tirelessly, trying to get a team together, and I think we have achieved that. I think one of the biggest things that we got the last hurdle that we had to overcome, and I believe that we've overcome that, is the mapping and the mapping software. Davis also is going to get involved with that. So I'm really looking. I want first quarter next year the VTT side of this business to have really kind of sprung up. It's been healthy for a while, but I want it to really grow and get out there. My daughter, 17, is the same. She is so envious of living in the 80s. Yeah, Rachel's always going on about it. And she and I watch the X-Files a lot. And I got to tell you, the X-Files, it is holding up. Man, do I love that television show. Good Lord, do I love that thing. And the actors and actors, Scully and, what's his name, Fox, their chemistry is spot on. Their interactions are spot on. The stories are fun. Great stuff. But Rachel, she's just loving every minute of it. I think her boyfriend is too. I always look back at my childhood with my friends and wonder how we managed to survive without too many major injuries. Yeah, there probably was more injuries than we realized. We all got kind of banged up, but yeah, it's really different. I remember when I lived on Fort Campbell, there was this huge hill that I'd take my skateboard out and go flying down that hill. No helmets, no knee pads, no anything. And those of you who skateboarded know, if you're skateboarding and that skateboard hits a rock, your skateboard stops, you keep going. And I did that innumerable times. I have no idea how I didn't suffer too many head injuries in those days. But there you go. What are you going to do? And then the lawn darts. I remember playing lawn darts. That's crazy. How long did it take you you come up with CNC from when you decided to make it to the first release? I would say 18 months, maybe a little less. We released the white box in 2004, Gen Con. 2004, I'm pretty sure, Gen Con. And it was a little bit rushed, so we would have had to have been done with that rule set about 2 months before, give or take, to get it printed, the boxes made, and all that crap. But yeah, I want to say it was well over a year that we worked on that, probably close to 18 months that we worked on that, and that's getting everything kind of ironed out, and most of the player's handbook written. And the Monsters and Treasures, of course, came later. We'd hired Robert Doyle to do that, and that proved to be a much more onerous task than he anticipated. So it took us. I actually got in and helped him co-write that. I'd say about 18 months. I think about 18 months. And then other parts have been as difficult. The CKG took us a good 4 years to do it. Getting everybody together on that one was a mess. But yeah, about 18 months, I think. Maximally. It wouldn't have been much more than that. We started it in 2003. I'm pretty sure we started in 2003. So somewhere around there. Would never want to go back to the 80s. Tim and Davis are not fans of the 80s. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't really look at any decade, I suppose, as better than the others. Parts of the 80s were a lot of fun. Yeah, the 90s are a blur to me. I really don't remember the 90s. I was in the Army in the first part of it. I got married in 96. I had my first child in 99, so I just don't remember much of the 90s. It just seemed to be very full of things. I finished my master's degree. I don't know, it just seemed very, very full. But I don't really remember much of the 80s either. I remember going to college. That's about it. I have to really think about the 80s, any of it to remember it. I think if I really push myself, I remember the 70s more than anything. When I was little, when I was 10 and 11 and whatnot. Just playing all the time, having a good time. I've had a good life, so I can't complain about any of it. Thank you for the subscription, Retro Gamer. Very, very much appreciated. Thanks for diving in this afternoon. I started playing D&D late 70s, early 80s. Great time for me. Yeah, I started in 76, 77 time frame, collecting comic books, playing with all those Marx toys, cowboys, Indians, all of that stuff. It was just really cool. It was just the 70s was just a good time to be alive. And of course, that carried into the 80s. Started drinking Dr. Pepper in this. It's got to be the 70s. Yeah, it'd have been the 70s. Good Lord. I think I got into D&D in the late 80s, maybe 88, 89. How's it going, Icana? Brazil. Hey, well, welcome from Brazil. Very cool. Glad you could join us. We're just sitting here chatting. This is just an Ask Me Anything, so fire any questions you have. I think we've gone from the gambit today, from Blade Runner back to skateboarding down hills in the 1970s. So. Okay, folks, tell me, what was your first fantasy RGB character? For me, it was an elven fighter, magic user. Poor elf ended up with a nervous complex about walking through doors after getting smashed by a number of traps. I think my first character was a fighter named Tarzan. That is, I'm almost 90% certain. I'd have to check with Davis. He ran the game. But a huge Tarzan fan, huge Burroughs fan. And I know that I named my first characters after Tarzan character books. Characters in Tarzan books. And I'm pretty sure my first character was Tarzan. And he almost definitely was a human fighter. I always played human fighters. 90s should always remain a blur. I don't want to remember them anymore. There you go. Yeah, I'm not sure why the 90s are a blur. It was a good decade, I suppose. Was it grunge music? I don't know. It started with the grunge and then just, whatever. It just seemed to... That show Friends started in the 90s, and that's one of my favorite shows. Man, it just went so fast. Everything's going so fast. You can always complain, and they can't take that from you. That is true. Yeah, someone told my nephew he didn't vote in the election, and they were like, well, you can't complain if you don't vote. And I said, well, this is the United States of America. You can complain about anything you want. You don't have to vote to complain. You don't have to do anything. Just get up in the morning and start complaining. You're good. Any question? My lower back, just above my belt line, is really aching today. Suggestions or solutions? KFC, Bifford, KFC. Go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and get yourself some chicken. Back pain with me. Always sleep better than you did before. Clean sheets, extra pillows. That's my only solution. I actually watched an advertisement on the Cube yesterday, a new pillow that's shaped like a cube. I'm not sure why the cube shape is supposed to be revolutionary. It's some kind of memory foam, which I don't like, but that's supposed to, what do they say? It aligns your spine, as if our spines are all in line up. My head's going left and right constantly while I'm doing this stream. Lord of mercy. Anyways, yeah, get some good sleep. Get a couple of pillows, not just one. I'm a huge fan when I sleep of very clean sheets. As clean as you could possibly get them. I used to change my sheets up to 3 times a week just because it's nice. Get them cold. I sleep in the cold. And I have a couple pillows to keep everything kind of aligned to keep me as comfortable as I possibly can. So there you go, Bifford. There's my medical advice. I would not recommend following medical advice for me. Yeah, Tarzan was the man. He died, I'm pretty sure. He died in Korak. Was one of my second or third characters. That's the son of Tarzan. For those of you who don't know, I believe he died as well. My first character was in Metamorphosis Alpha. All I remember is that he had radiated eyes. Very cool, very cool. Very first, an elf died in first adventure. First that actually survived in the level was a human cleric. I started with Mincer. Oh, very cool, a Mincer Red Box. Human cleric named Eru had 18 wisdom and not much else. Well, now that's a pretty good if you're starting off with an 18 wisdom. So no KFC. No KFC for you, Bifford. Now I want some KFC. I'm having leftovers tonight. I'm not sure what I'm having. Some kind of lemon chicken or something. Let's see. Sun salutations. It's a yoga type thing. The Wii version is just enough. Works wonders for the little rack. There you go. Eat to surface. Got you doing some yoga. My wife loves yoga. It's good stuff. I will say this about yoga. When I was in the Army, we went through a spate of everyone got to run the unit in PT. And one of the young captains, she was big into yoga, and she was going to have everybody do yoga. She had everybody, the whole unit, do yoga. And I was in good shape in those days. I think I lasted about 4 minutes. I was eating dirt. If you're not used to doing yoga, you did. It's tough. It's tougher than it looks. Much tougher than it looks. How's it going, Epi? Glad you could join us. Clever, nothing like clean set. There is nothing like a clean set of sheets. And if it's cold and take a bath before you go to bed, you got clean sheets, nice and cold. Wrap yourself up. It's just, you'll get a great night's sleep. It's just the way to do it. All right. So Virtual Wizard got in trouble. There you go. My first character was also an elven fighter magic user named Thelev. He died a lot. He died a lot. Final time was breathed up by a red dragon. Only in D&D can you, only in RPGs can you die a lot. It's great. Controller's dead on that. What are your thoughts on the shoddy quality of Wizards of the Coast's latest books? I've seen many reviews of poor binding and pages coming undone. Makes me appreciate the quality of TLG puts out. Wow, I hadn't heard that. I've been hearing all kinds of rumors about Wizards of the Coast lately. They've been kind of washing over us like the tide, which is kind of interesting. I think they're just having some trouble over there with management, honestly. And if the books that they're binding, I thought they had them bound in Belgium. I don't know why I think that. I somewhere in my head, their main printer is in Europe, in Belgium. I don't know why I think that. That's probably inaccurate. I'd have to poke in and see what Wizards of the Coast is doing. I'm assuming that they're cutting costs by just doing a glue binding, which is not. It's not a good idea. It's just not a good idea, especially for RPG books. We use the living crap out of these things. They take a beating, so they got to hold together. And that inline gluing is okay. We've talked about this before on this stream, where you glue to the headboard itself. But and I can't even remember what it's called when we do Smythstone binding, which is signatures that are bound to the not the headboard, but I can't remember what any of this stuff's called, which is odd because I've been doing this for so long. But at any rate, yeah. So I'm not sure what they must be doing something. I know a few other publishers have done that. They cut costs and end up with books that don't hold together. And that's when you pay $50 for a book and it doesn't hold together. That's just not good karma. All of our hardbacks are done Smythe Sum. Every single one of them. Costs a little bit extra, but we definitely doing it. And I'll tell you this: we don't. We've talked about this 1,000 times. We do not offshore here at Troll Lord Games. Everything is printed here in the United States. And when you offshore stuff, you're going to have, especially when you use Chinese manufacturers, you're going to have just a higher percentage of books that aren't bound well. That's just all there is to it. I can think of one book that we had that was not bound well. The signatures were not tight, and it was the Monsters and Treasures of Erd, Castles and Crusades. I contacted them, sent the books back, and they redid them all. So that's something that you really cannot do. You really cannot do when you're using it, when you offshore the stuff outside of the United States or whatever country that you're particularly in. If you're in Brazil making books, you should make your books in Brazil. It's just the way it should be. You did that to yourself, Steve. Don't go blame me. I haven't had KFC in a while, and they've been having troubles here. They only take cash most of the time, and I don't have that much cash. 5 people to feed, it's too much. Hey, hold on. Davis is calling. Let's see what Davis has to say. Hey, I'm live streaming, and you're on speaker.
Oh, okay. I'll call you later.
Okay. He has no gaming news, folks. All right. Later, dude. All right, there you go. All right, I'm not sure what Davis is doing. I should have hollered at him to join me for the stream today. I didn't even think about it. Did you ever get into online text adventures? I remember discovering MUDs with the type instructions, etc., but with other players in the same world. That was responsible for some serious dents in university grades. No, I never did that. I think that came out right after I left school and dove into the Army, and I didn't get my first PC until like 90, I don't know, 5, something like that. 94? I don't know, something like that. So I never got into it. I always heard these things about these MUDs going on, but I never got into that. I'm slowly turning my backyard into a somewhat fantastic version of southern Bavarian evergreen forests. I like mountains, though. Any suggestions on what I should add? Well, you almost have to have a tent. Actually, I actually have been to the Alps a couple of times way back when, and the houses out there they just look cool. So you need to do. And what is that? It's not mud and daub. That's completely wrong. It's got the white plaster with the boards that go through it, and then even log cabins. So you got to do something like that. Oh, you got to do. I don't know if you have a dog or not, but make a little dog house, or maybe even I don't know how big your backyard is. Make a little bitty Oktoberfest dwelling where you can go and it's all wood and the table's wood, and you gotta, it's just you get some good German drinking atmosphere. Put a bunch of mugs and steins out there. Absolutely love Germany. I am a huge fan of Germany and German culture, and I love Bavaria. I love the Alps, the whole 9 yards. We stomped around Oberammergau quite a bit when I was a kid. But beyond that, I mean, you could do one of those big beer tents and maybe hire one of those women that can carry like 10 mugs at the same time. That would be pretty awesome. I actually had to send in pictures of my first PHB for 5e. Wizards Coast was kind enough to ship me a replacement, but probably 50 pages so toward the front came out. Oh wow, that's horrible. That's horrible, Martin. That's just horrible. That's yeah. If a book disintegrates, no. So I think the Conan RPG ran into that. They had to almost redo. I think it was Mongoose Publishing almost had to redo an entire print run because the books were just disintegrating. I cannot remember what that's called at the moment. The type of binding that when you're just gluing to the headboard or to the headband, it's just not. Especially full color books, the pages are heavy, everything's heavy, and the books are large, 8.5 by 11, so it's not small. So you're trying to cut corners on something that's going to see a lot of traffic and that it's heavy as well. So opening it up, just a lot of problems. And I really don't know why. Maybe they're printing in the East. I'm not really sure where they're printing these days. I would like to declare that I have nothing to do with the Wizard Coast binding because Commander Pete is in Belgium, for those of you who don't know. My AD&D books are still rock solid, and my TLG books. That's Martin. I have somewhere around here the Player's Handbook, Monsters and Treasures, and Dungeon Master's Guide that Davis bought in the 1970s. Now, the headboard's gone, so this part is gone. But the binding is still intact. The book still opens. Everything's perfect. Just the headboard's been ripped off by God knows what. But on the Players and the Monsters, now I think the DM's Guide. So you're talking, I don't know how many years ago that was, 40 years ago. And the book is still very serviceable to this day. That's the way a book should be made, without a doubt. There's usually a giant crease just in the indicia page. Irritates me so much. Giant crease in what page? On the Wizards or on ours? God, why can't I get anything to open today? Oh, wow. Really? So that's called the indicia page. I did not know what that was called. Oh, now I've lost everything. There we go. That's funny. That can't be art books. Surely not. I had a problem a while back with a WC book. They gave me a new one without any questions. I passed my filling one. Well, that's good. It's good that they're at least replacing them. That's very good. If this is Tuesday, it must be Belgium. I just did a search and I'm finding consistent posts from 2014 onwards complaining about Wizard of the Coast binding. I didn't either. I don't really much follow what Wizard of the Coast is doing. Their decisions they've been making for the past couple of years have been a little not decisions that I would have made. Cador, worth it though. Never had a problem with one of your hardbacks. Excellent, thank you. I just wish the end pages on TLG books were black. We may actually do something with the end pages on the Player's Handbook this time around. We'll see. Yeah, I'm betting Wizards of the Coast just factors in returns to the deal and just does it on the cheap. Probably. Which is a shame because it really, the savings is not demonstrably that huge. I mean, it's there. It's definitely cuts, and when you get a bigger print run. Anyways, no, they got to make the decisions that they have made. There you go. Do you keep Chuck busy by having him hand stitch every TLG book? You know, Blood Wild, there's a way to do that. We actually researched that when we did hardbacks in house for a while. It didn't work. We had to do inline gluing. I did inline binding. I didn't like it. I liked it, but there's other parts that didn't work. But we looked at the stitching machines. Woo! But you want a book that won't ever fall apart. Stitch properly. That's the way to do it. How's it going, Grape Ape? Thanks, Davis. Very insightful. What is the funniest prank you ever played on? You have ever played on Davis and vice versa? We're not a bunch of. We don't really do the whole pranks thing. In my family, it's never really been kind of that way. Davis and I, of course, grew up together and shared a room from my earliest age until I was 15, and then again when I was like, until I was 14, and then again when I was like 15 to 16, and then I finally got my own room, then I moved down the house. So Davis and I got along amazingly well. We rarely fight, if ever. I can remember once, I don't even know what we fought about, but we split the room in half with tape. I do remember that. He had the half with the door on it, so I couldn't get out of the room. It was an immediate problem for me. I did have the toy closet, so that was kind of cool. But, yeah, I don't know. We've never really done the prank thing. But generally speaking, if one of us is in a bind, we call the other one. So there's been quite a few of that over the past 5 decades or so. Davis, can you come? Kent, can you come? That's my middle name is Kent. And then off we go to help the other one out of whatever idiocy they have landed in. What is my Codex Germania with several AA books are coming in tomorrow, fellas. Can't wait. Excellent. We did a huge ship out Monday and today, so a whole lot of books. The whole Thanksgiving thing went out, and we'll have the 12 bundles of Christmas ready by tomorrow, I believe. An Alps warming hut. There you go. Derek. An Alps warming hut. I'm not sure what that is. I feel as if I should look that up. Perfect. An Alps warming hut. That's what you need in your backyard. I'm going to just put... I don't even know if this works anymore the way... Nothing works like I want. Okay, here you go. Perfect. There you go, Derek. Your Alps warming hut. Let's see, Bifford, my 3rd edition Exalted book recently broke the top few CMs of its binding. Still begging with an email drive through to ask if they'll replace it. That's interesting. All the fancy copyright shit. Yeah. POD copy, not deluxe from the developers. Oh, yeah, see, now POD, that's one of the reasons we haven't gone that route. What? No. I'm getting 1,000 little messages from Grammarly all the time. It's driving me crazy. We haven't done the POD on drive-through. We've experimented with it. The binding seems to be okay, but I really can't control it. So it gets into this, I don't know. I've got sales reps that I've worked with at Walsworth for 2 decades now. They know what I like. They know the size of the books. They help me through certain things that I've never been able to quite master. So it's just, I don't know. I don't like the idea of outsourcing all of it. How's it going, DM? My outbuilding is going to have to be a drinking hall now, but lumber is so expensive this year in the U.S. It might take me a while, but I'm on it. Thanks, Trollord. Yeah, it is ridiculously expensive. You may have to cut down some trees and, to log them and then just stack them up the side of the building. However that would work. Davis and his crew were actually building a log cabin this break. And I'll post some pictures of it somewhere, but maybe he can come out and help you out there. My Alps warming hut drinking hall done. There you go. I'm going to have to come visit you, Omut, at some point. Exalted is that's a huge book. How many pages does that have, Bifford? That's got to be 400, 500 pages. Yeah, see, we're in that zone of I don't like TLG books to be over 400 pages. And honestly, the Monsters and Treasures, what are we at? 364. It's holding up well. But I'm just not real. Yeah, it's holding up pretty good. Yeah, it's holding up. I don't know, the Codex. Of course, the Codex is a little bit. Yeah, Codex is holding up pretty good. The Smithsonian really makes a difference, and when you POD, you're running a big risk with it, without a doubt. Steve, I have to say, the Storyteller's Dictionary and Thesaurus are absolutely indispensable research. I love those 2 books. Clever. I'm glad you're enjoying them. Jim's in theory working on a 3rd of those. I absolutely love those books, the dictionary and the thesaurus. They're just great resource material if you're gaming, if you're running a game, if you're writing an adventure, or writing a short story, whatever the hell you're doing. If it involves words, those 2 books are really cool. And they're kind of geared towards us, which is kind of nice. I'm glad you're enjoying them, Clever. Very cool. For smaller books, POD has not been a problem. Generally speaking, as soon as you start getting over about 300 pages, definitely 400 pages. Color's a little bit different because the pages are heavier just because of all the toner, ink, whatever. It starts getting problematic. I was very, very, very disappointed with our Haunted Highlands Castle Keeper's Guide to the Haunted Highlands, which is 405 pages. It was Smithsonian, and I just didn't feel like it did well. Very disappointed with that book, and it's the thing that kind of made me cap the page counts on it. But on the books that we do. Yeah, some POD works. Those are fantastic books. I'm very glad to have them. Yeah, it's just really the storyteller stuff is just great. There are some. The Haunted Highland needs to come back. Yes, it does. Omut, we have talked to Casey about this a number of times. That's probably going to be our next project on Indiegogo. Maybe sooner rather than later. I want to do a box set. I want to break the adventures into 2 books. It's 10 or 12. I can't remember how they are. Break them into 2 books so that they're more accessible. And then the CK's material will be 48 to 60 pages, somewhere around that, then a player's guide. And then the primer. And I think I can get all those in a nice, decent box and release that as a box set. That's really what I would like to do with Haunted Highland. It's a fantastic property. And it's been sitting really just in digital content for well over 2 years now. And that's just not very cool. Truly Steve Bravo, please forward my thanks if you can. I will. I'll definitely let him know. James Ward is awesome. Love the Thesaurus books, but of course, Metamorphosis Alpha, my first RPG. That is just cool, man. And we've got, let's see if I can get it up here. We've got the rough of the front cover of Starship Warden, which we are working on. Let's see if this goes up. So that will be bingo. Now, I haven't got Jim's approval on it yet, but that is the cover that Jason Walton is working on for the Starship Warden. And of course, it'll extend to the back and all of that business. I need to actually approve that, but that's going to be the cover for the big, gigantic Starship 600-page. Speaking of books that are oversized, 600-page book. That Darlene map from the Haunted Highland needs to see the light of day again. That is a beautiful, 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 beautiful map. I think she has mostly retired now, so I couldn't get her to do one of Aird. But that map is just It's spectacular. There's something that Darlene does that no other cartographer has been able to achieve in blending art with cartography, with calligraphy in such a way that it's evocative and utilitarian at the same time. I mean, there's those Darlene maps from the World of Greyhawk and the Haunted Highland are just absolute RPG gold, and they've never been. I don't think they've ever been matched. Even those people who try to copy the style, there's just something about it. There's just something about Darlene's technique. Looks like a lady's toy. Yeah, Omod, he really is. That CKG cover is amazing. The Freet, both of them, all of them. He's just been really knocking it through the park lately. This he drew the picture as Jim described the ship. So, it's essentially just a gigantic Zeppelin, is what it essentially is. That's why I based my own graphic map off her original 81 map. I tried really hard to capture her style. Retro Gamer, it is extremely difficult, and I don't understand why, because the colors are very simple. There's no blending. There's none of that. I don't know. Maybe that is the what she did. There's some kind of there's a grace in the simplicity of her form that really just carries over. And maybe it's my age. I started playing with that, the World of Greyhawk, of course, back in God knows when. So maybe it just resonates with me in particular. But I don't think so. I think it really has that feel. I don't know. It's got some kind of magic about it that Darlene just did. Mr. Warden looks a bit different, but that makes sense for James's first maps. You mean his Starship Warden? Yeah, I gotta send that to James. I gotta send that to Jim to make sure that he's clear that it works for him. And I think that it had some fins on it, didn't it? I got that on my desktop. Actually, I was farting around with it. No, it doesn't have any fins. It's got some kind of. Oh, it's got those two giant engines. Okay, so Jason needs to add those engines. Good deal. All right. Yeah. Just received the Amazon Adventure Bundle. Wow, Jason is a great writer. Oh yeah, Jason Bay is fantastic. Yeah, and he and I are fixing to dive into the Planescapes next year. So it's going to be a lot more Jason Bay coming down the pipe. It's Space Engines. Is that what I said? Warp drive. I don't know. The hard thing about the Warden is to capture its size, because it's 46 miles long, 6 miles high, and 20-something miles wide. So it's actually extremely hard to capture it scale-wise. Peter Bradley tried 6 or 7 different covers, and he actually kind of asked me to send it to Jason. So I gave Jason a holler, and I gotta let him know thoughts on the cover itself. But the Warden is a very unique. It's one of the coolest concepts. Metamorphosis Alpha, Starship Warden, one of the coolest concepts for an RPG, a science fiction RPG, I've ever heard about. It's just badass. It's essentially a world on a ship floating in space, and you can come at it from the outside. You can come at it from the inside. It doesn't matter. Starship Warden is cool. Yeah, but Jim's. I mean, it's fantastic. Mine is more like a football mixed with a Wall-E thing. It's a good movie. It's a very good movie. Yeah, because they had those giant starships in that too. I forgot. Yeah. I liked Wall-E. That was a very well done movie. Clearly, they needed to do something with trash collection on Earth before that, but maybe recycle a little more. I'm not sure. Recycle, reuse. What is it? Recycle, reuse, and something. I'm not sure what we're doing these days. I can't keep up with all the jargon of the kids. All right, well that's about it. Another rambling AMA that addressed nothing and solve no world issues except for perhaps Omut's backyard hut or whatever. Damn kids, get off our lawns. Yeah, I don't know what the kids are doing these days. Whatever, I don't care. The old have to leave the stage and let the young take over. It's the way of things. So it's been a way of things since the dawn of time. There was probably a couple of Australopithecus africanus yelling at their dads, "Get off of it! You don't know how to do it." That's just the way it is. All right, well, that's it for AMA. I'm Stephen Chenault, CEO of Trollwood Games. I will be back for... Yeah, it is, Cador. It's perfectly okay. It's just the way it is. Take it easy, clever. I will be back on Thursday for another GM's Tricks of the Trade, and again back next Tuesday. And we've got Haunted Holler Painting, World Anvil next Tuesday, I believe. We got a lot of stuff going on. Check our schedule. We'll get that up. But thanks for everybody for showing up. I sure love these streams. And we will be back here shortly. That way sucks. Thanks, Obos. You all take care. Have a good week. And we'll see you Thursday, hopefully. All right. I'm going to get out of here. All right. Take it easy, y'all.